Welcome to Visuals Kingdom. I'm your host Nick Metzger, and in today's video I'm going to show you how you can start with Premiere if you have never done anything with it but you want to become a filmmaker. So the first thing you always want to do is download Premiere, of course, but then open it up. So now as soon as it opens up, the first thing you want to do is to create a new project. Now in this window, you're gonna set the name of it. Let's say how to get started with Premiere. And you're gonna choose the saving location. In my case, I simply choose the desktop. And then you can leave the rest as is. And then hit OK. Okay, so now you should be in the All Panels view. If you're not, go up here, click on the arrows and click All Panels. And then you will see the exact same as I do now. Okay, now since this is the first time ever you're in Premiere, you want to organize your software. What I mean by that is that you have uncountable windows, which you can see here. And not every single one is necessary. So the first thing you want to do is organize them. Let's see. I always use the project window. I always use the media browser. I don't use libraries, so I right click it and click on close panel. Then I go up here. I always use the source monitor. I use effect controls. I use lumetri scopes. I don't use the audio clip mixer. I don't use the audio track mixer. I don't use capture. I don't use edit to tape. I don't use Adobe Story, and I don't use progress. So now we're a lot more organized. Then switch over here. I always use the program monitor. I use titles, but I don't need the reference. And the same here on the very right. I don't need info. Effects, I'm gonna need that. I may gonna need essential graphics. Essential sound, I don't need that. I will need lumetri color. I don't need metadata. I don't need markers actually. I don't need the history. I don't need captions. I don't need events. I will need the legacy title properties. The styles I won't need. I will need the tools. And I will need the actions, but I won't need the timecode, since the timecode is over here as well. Okay, so let's start out by figuring out what these windows are. So I'll start with the project window. This is the window where you can import your media. You can either double click inside the window and a folder will open up, or you can go into the Finder and drag something into this window. I'm gonna delete that for now. Okay, then another option to import your footage is through the media browser. What you can do here is search for your source. Let's say I want to import something from, let's say, the desktop. So I go to my desktop, where is it, over here? And then simply double click what I want. Okay, and now that I have double clicked it, you can already see that it's in the source monitor. The source monitor will always show you what you selected at the moment. So let's say I'm in a different hard drive and I'm gonna select another picture. Then you will see this one in the source monitor. Okay, the next windows, effect controls, lumetri scopes, and all the other ones here on the right. I'm gonna explain them as soon as I imported something. So let's go back into the project window, double click inside here and import your footage. Okay, and now that you have imported your shots, you can see them in a list over here. But you can also click here on the icon view to see preview thumbnails. And now when you hover with the mouse over the clips, you can see a little preview of that. And of course, same as before, when you double click one, you can see it up here in the source monitor. Now the next thing you need to do is to create a timeline, because every film project in a non-linear editor like Premiere Pro is based on a timeline. And how you can do that is basically by clicking on that clip or whatever clip you want and drag it over into the timeline, and then you will see a little plus next to your little mouse hand. Now if you drop that, you can see that you have the clip and the according audio sources to it. Since we filmed with an FS7, there are several audio tracks. I believe in most of the cases when you film with your camera, you will get only one audio track or maybe two, but don't worry about that, it doesn't actually matter. So now to organize your timeline window, you basically can drag on these lines to make the preview a lot bigger, and you can do that with the audio as well. And then you can see that you have these little eyes. This means that whenever an eye is untoggled, you don't see the clips on this timeline. So if you see now, if I drag that up on the second track, voila, I will see the clip again, but when I hit the eye, it will be hidden. Same for audio, but it doesn't work with an eye, it works with the M. With the M you can mute the track if you don't want to hear the sound. Or what you can also do is right click the clip, unlink it from the audio, select the audio and then delete it. But I prefer to use the method with the M, the mute track method, because then whenever I want to put the sound back in, I can do that by simply hitting this one again. Okay, so now I'm gonna explain the effect controls window. What you can do here is position your clip, the left-right positioning, the up and down positioning. You can scale it and rotate it, of course. And whenever you insert an effect from the effect window over here, you will see the effect controls, as the window says, inside here, and then change whatever you need to change. Alright, that's it for Windows. But now let's structure the whole entire project a bit more. So I'm in the project monitor, remember that, and what I can see here is all my imported footage. So to get a structure and work fast afterwards, I want to create bins. So let's say I right click into the window, or I go down here and select new bin and name that, let's say, clips. Then I'm gonna select the clips and put them inside this bin. Now let's say this is not a clip, but an audio track or a soundtrack or music or whatever. So I'm gonna create a new bin, another new bin, and call that, title that one audio. Now this would be audio, goes inside here. Maybe inside audio you also want to do onset audio and maybe soundtrack, or also sound effects, whatever, however you like it. Then you want to create a new one for sequences, and the sequence is basically a timeline. So this one over here is sequence with the title Venturesome 0691, and you can see it's this one, Venturesome 0691. So when you drag and drop that into the sequence folder, you will be a lot more structured when you work with multiple sequences. And now you can always click on this title here and change it, let's say to sequence number 1. And you will see now that it has changed here as well as here. Now if you click on this folder with the arrow, you go back like one layer. So you're back in the main folder now, which contains all these subfolders. Now I also want to create a new bin for titles, if you want to use titles, and for graphics, for example, if you use logos for a client or whatever. And that's it for the folder structure. Okay, so before I showed you how you can create a sequence by drag and dropping a clip into the timeline. Now what you can also do when you want to insert other clips, you can either drag on them again and pull them inside here, or you can open up the source monitor, double click a clip, and then scroll around and search for a point where you want the clip to start. When you find one, simply hit I on your keyboard, and now you will see the in and out point selection over here. What that means is, let's first hit O for out. And what that means is that if you now drag on your clip up here, it will only take that part. So just as a reference, if I make that one longer, again by hitting I and O, you will see that the clip becomes much longer. And that also brings up another subject. When you have made your selection, you can either drag on your image up here, and it will import your video and audio, or you can drag on this little film icon, then it will import your video only, or on the audio wave, and it will import the audio only. Now it's important that you drag it into the audio tracks, which are divided by this line here, or it will not work. Like you can see this little forbidden sign or whatever. And same with video, you can't drag videos into the audio tracks, you need to put them into the video tracks. Now to stay structured with your tracks, you can also retitle and rename those. Simply right click on one track, click on rename, and let's call this one rough cut. And the audio track I'm gonna call, let's say, main audio. And now you're a lot more structured. Okay, but now let's start with editing. So you got some clips in your timeline, you got some audio in your timeline, and now we want to put a film together, or a video, or whatever it is that you want to create. So basically, to cut your videos and sound, you have multiple tools here on the left. You can see you get the selection tool, you get the track select forward tool, the ripple edit tool, the razor tool, slip tool, pen tool, hand tool, and type tool. And for each tool, on the right side of the name, you can see in brackets a little letter. And what this letter is basically the shortcut for it. So you can see A here. So if I press A on my keyboard, you will see that it selects this tool. It's B for ripple edit. So if I hit B, it selects the ripple edit tool. Same for razor tool. If I hit S, it selects the razor tool. In your case, the razor tool will be set to C, but I like to work with S, so actually it doesn't matter, but just in case you're confused. So I would say that the razor tool is the most important tool because you can make cuts with it. If you have selected C in your case, I selected S, you can see this little razor blade over here with the red line through it. So as soon as you hover over a clip, you can see the entire line here, which marks where you will make the cut. So if I left click here, you can see that instead of one clip, I now have two clips and I can drag them apart, like so. And I can make as many cuts as I want actually, like that. And then if I select my clips by dragging with the mouse and hovering over them, I can reorder them as I want. I can put them on a new track, on a new video track. I can put them on a third video track, on a fourth video track. It doesn't matter. I can do with them whatever I want. So this is the basic cut. Let's say we will use this clip here, put it to the right, and then we want to make a cut to this clip. So So we put that next to each other. And now you can see when I play that back, that we have now successfully put two clips together. And that's how a film is structured. Okay, now another very useful tool is the ripple edit tool. You get that by either clicking here or simply hit B on your keyboard. Okay, so if I go to this clip over here, you can see that unlike with the razor tool, you can't click the clip, but you can drag on the right side or on the left side. Now, if you drag on the right side, for example, and you let go, you will see that the clips right to this clip will jump back as well. So what the ripple edit tool does is it edits your selected clip, but also affects the clips following this clip. Okay, and the same on the left side. If I drag on the left side, you will see that everything jumps back to preserve the time frame. Another handy tool is the slip tool, which you can get by clicking here on the slip tool or by hitting Y on your keyboard. What this allows you to do is when you have a clip selected and let's say the clip, we want this one. We set the frame for it by putting this clip on the left here and this clip on the right, and we're not quite happy with the content of this clip. So what this tool allows you to do is you can reframe the content of this clip. I can't do that here because my clip is linked to the audio. So I want to right click the clip, hit unlink, and now you can see that it is black, the tool. So what I'm gonna do now is click on the clip, like so, and then drag it to the left or to the right. And this allows me to change the content of the clip, but still preserve the time frame that I set here by putting this clip on the left and this clip on the right. So this is pretty handy as well. Okay, and to understand what you see here up in the program monitor, on the left side you can see the in point of the clip, and on the right side you can see the out point. So don't be confused if you see two different images here. This has to be like this. And on top left you can see the end point of the left clip, and on the right you can see the starting point, the end point of the right clip. So this one and this one. This just helps you to understand what you're doing. Okay, now comes one of my favorite tools, which you get by pressing R. It's the rate stretch tool. Why did I say you need to press R? Because you won't find that tool just on the left here, except for if you left click the tool and keep it clicked for like a second or so. Then you can see you get the ripple edit tool, the rolling edit tool, and the rate stretch tool. What the rate stretch tool does is you can go to the right or the left of a clip, and if you drag it to the right, your clip will get slower. So let's check that if I play it back. Since I didn't film with a high frame rate, it will now be a bit choppy. And when I pull it to the left, you can see that it's a lot faster. Maybe a bit more. So what this does is basically it takes the entire clip and squeezes the time or stretches the time. But you need to make sure that you have high enough frame rate to create slow motion. But you can always, no matter the clip, speed it up. That's the difference between those two. I use that a lot actually because I love slow-mo, and it's a pretty useful tool. Now, one of the last tools I want to show to you is actually not a tool, but just a handy trick that you can use when you, for example, want to edit to music and need to get the beat. So no matter where you are in the timeline, you can hit M and you will see in the program monitor up here a marker. What this does is basically you could say that when you want to start editing a music video and you imported the soundtrack, you can set those markers to mark the beat and then put the clips together so they match the beat. It won't be like perfect when you just listen to the sound and hit M all the time, but it will help you a lot. Let's say M here, M here. And what you can also do is you can select a clip, hit M, and you will now see that it marked the specific point in the clip. What this also did is it set a marker in the audio track. So this helps you to sync your audio if you lost your sync. So this basically means that I can sync up my audio again. I simply select my audio track to do so and drag it over to the right until the markers match each other. Like so. And then your audio will perfectly synchronize afterwards. Also, you may have seen me do this sometimes now. The bar down here will help you find something in your timeline. You can scroll through your timeline, or also, if you drag on these points, if you drag to the right, you can make it a lot smaller to see more, or you can make it bigger to see more detail in your clip, or actually in the time frame of your clip. Okay, so now that we made some basic cuts, we got these 3 clips together and we made some cool slow-mo here. We now maybe want to make a transition because we don't like hard cuts. So what you could do is go over to the effects window over here, where you can instantly see Lumetri presets, audio effects, audio transitions, video effects, and video transitions. So video transitions is the thing you want to choose. Now there are some basic transitions which I use, which are the dissolve transitions. The very basic one is the film dissolve. If you drag that on 2 of your clips, you can either drag it just on the left clip, just on the right clip, or on both. What this means is, what you can see here, the right side of the transition, the golden transition, is actually just some more of the left clip. And the left side of the transition is a bit more of the right clip. And what the transition does is it dissolves. So that means if I scroll through it now, you can see that the left clip fades away, fades out, while the right clip fades in. And then you get this really smooth film dissolve. That's a very handy transition, very easy to do. And if you want to make it longer, you can always go to the left here or to the right and just drag it onto the right or left side, whatever you want. It's important to know that you can just drag it as much as the length of your clip, so you can't make it longer than your actual clip. What you can also do is, let's say you want like maybe a second of the right clip fading into the left one, but none of the left fading into the right one. So you can hold Shift on your keyboard and drag on one side, like so. So now you can see that this clip, the left clip, doesn't fade out, but the right clip fades in. And this is basically the same as if I would put it on top of the left clip, and then I would put a film dissolve up here. You can see now that exactly the same thing happens. Like that. Okay, then there's the cross dissolve, which is basically exactly the same as the film dissolve, but it's older. It's a technique which is not based on gamma, but rather on just fade out to 0% and fade in from 0%. That means it doesn't use the next clip's actual gamma source. So I never use that. Then you got the additive dissolve, which adds the 2 clips together at one point right here in the middle. then you get a really bright image, and then fades the left clip out, like so. This is handy for, let's say, a horror film. If you make that really short, you can see this like flashback style stuff, which is pretty cool sometimes, but don't overuse that. Then you got the non-additive dissolve. So what this basically does is it subtracts the dark parts of the first clip, and this example isn't too good because you can only see like some of the first clip up here, the left. If you look closely, you can see that moving, and it will just like pop in, and then as soon as the transition finishes, it will be gone. Like really drastic. I never used that transition, but maybe it will be handy for you in the future, who knows. Then you got the dip to white, which is basically something similar to the additive dissolve, since it will go to complete white and then fade into the next clip, but it doesn't use the data of the next clip. So as a comparison, if I put in the additive dissolve, you can always see some part of one of your clips. If you select dip to white, you will get complete white in the middle of the transition. Same for dip to black, but with black. Like so. So pretty easy. And then you get the morph cut. The morph cut I actually can't show you in this example, because to use the morph cut you will need a subject, for example, which is, let's say, in an interview situation, and you get the subject who talks about Premiere, and then he fucks it up and you need to make a cut. So you basically get a second clip with the exact same subject talking about the exact same thing, which is Premiere, but you have a time cut for, let's say, 10 seconds. Now, if you put these two together, you will see your subject moving like that, and now when I cut, maybe your subject is in a different position, and if you put the morph cut on top of these two clips, it will morph them so that the cut becomes less obvious. There is also a different and actually highly difficult method to morph cut. We made a tutorial about that, and you can watch it up here, but you're gonna need After Effects for it. But let's continue now with the Premiere tutorial. What we have made since the beginning, we have structured our whole project. We have created a sequence, we imported our footage, we made some basic cuts, we made a cool slow-mo shot, we made a transition, multiple transitions actually, and now let's say you want to put in some titles. I want to name this guy, which is actually me, and say that this is Nick Metzger. So I go up here, go to File, New, and select Legacy Title. Then, very important, you need to input your video size. In my case, this is, let's say, 1920 by 1080, which equals Full HD. The time base needs to be exactly the same as your frame rate you shot in. And if you don't know these numbers now, don't worry about that. Simply hit OK. Go up to Sequence over here. Actually, first select your sequence. Then go back up to Sequence, Sequence Settings, and you will now see your frame size, the horizontal frame size and the vertical frame size. You can also see what frame rate you shot in. So if you put the numbers in wrong in the first title, simply delete it by hitting delete on your keyboard, or drag it into the bin here, or click the bin. It's that easy. Then go back up to File, New, Legacy Title, and put in the right numbers. Actually, it should match your sequence settings automatically, but sometimes it doesn't. so know your numbers, it helps. Okay, now that you have created your legacy title, you will see a new window pop up, which is actually the title window I mentioned at the beginning. What you can do here is just click and type in whatever you want. I said I want to name myself, so Nick Metzger. That's one way to do it. Or you can drag a text frame. Now, let's say I type in Nick Metzger here. This basically works like a text frame in Word or in Pages or wherever you need to edit your stuff. Same here, if you select the text, you can make it bigger. You can set the kerning, you can set the leading, you can do basically whatever Word can, or Pages as I mentioned. Now a very handy feature is the legacy title tools over here. You can see that if you click on the rectangle tool, for example, you can create rectangles, so maybe for a lower third. Or you can go into legacy title actions, and this one is actually very, very handy. So if you now hit V, you can select your title, and then in the legacy title actions, you can center the title. So you can set the horizontal center, which is actually the vertical center, and you can set the horizontal center. And this makes sure that your title is exactly in the middle of the entire clip. Now, just because you created this title, it won't be in your sequence yet. You need to take it and first, of course, put it into the titles bin, because we made that to organize your project. And then drag and drop it into your timeline. In here, it basically works as a separate clip. So I can move it around, I can make a cut, I can make a transition, I can do whatever I want with it. What I can also do is double click it if I need to make changes. This will automatically open up the title window, and you can go back to work and maybe call this title Visuals Kingdom. So that's actually fairly easy and a pretty handy tool. So now that we have the rough cut, we got transitions, we got slow-mo, we got titles, we got everything. We need to make sure that the look of our clips is like great. So we need to edit colors. How you can do that is you go over to the Lumetri color tab over here, and this will open up Lumetri colors for your clip. You can play around with these settings here. You can play around with the temperature of your clip, and if you double click on the dot on your slider, it will always jump back to 0, or you can just type in some numbers here. Then you can play with the exposure of your shot. You can play with the contrast, which helps a lot for my case here. I'm gonna make it a bit darker. You can play with the highlights, you can play with the shadows, also with the whites, with the blacks. Just play around with it until you're happy. With the saturation as well. And you can also import LUTs. A LUT is basically a color preset which makes your footage look great from the beginning on. That means it gives you a starting point. I just hit that arrow because I wanted to reset my colors. That means if you let's say you're on ground 0 with your colors, you go to Input LUT and select, for example, D-Log. You can now see that it automatically applied contrast to my image, it applied saturation, but I can also, on top of that, play with the contrast myself. So I can make it a bit harsher, or I can make the saturation, I can desaturate it a bit, or I can do whatever I want. So a LUT simply gives you a great starting point. Also, I want to give you 5 free LUTs, which you can import then into your Premiere and play around with them. You can get them for free. The download link is down below in the description. So if you want to play with colors, this helps you a lot. Okay, let's recap it. We organized our project, we created a timeline, sequence, we imported our footage, we made a rough cut, we made transitions, we made slow-mo, we imported titles, we worked on our colors, and now what you need to do is export your finished movie. You can do that by either pressing Command and M on your keyboard. This will open up your export settings. I'm gonna cancel that. Or you can go, always make sure your sequence is selected, and then you can go to File, Export, and click on Media. This opens up the exact same window. Now in here you have various options, and we made a very detailed tutorial about the export settings. You can watch that again up here. Basically, if you want to export for YouTube, you select H.264, and if you want a bigger and a bit of a high quality file, you select QuickTime, for example. But I'm not gonna dive deeper into that because you can watch the tutorial we made for you. So that's basically it. That's the entire tutorial. Alright, thank you so much for watching the entire video. I hope you now know how to use Premiere. If you don't, we have a lot more tutorials about Premiere, about After Effects, about Photoshop, about Lightroom. So make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a single tutorial. See you next week. Bye.